Yeah, we'll talk about how can citizens participate in shaping AI. She wants she will talk about the transition between being spectators to being active participants. Sia Verma is PPE student at the University of Pennsylvania and a research assistant at Stanford Center on Democracy Development and the Rule of Law. Her research focuses on the intersection of technology, economics, and public policy, with an emphasis of empowering citizen engagement and shaping AI's future. Sia, you're welcome to start your presentation. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Diana. Hi, everyone. Today, I'll be speaking to some of the current barriers to passing AI regulations, as well as a potential solution that I've been working on at Stanford's Deliberative Democracy Lab. Before we dive in, I wanted to get a sense of the room. How many of you have heard of any of the following terms? Deliberative polling, citizen assemblies, or deliberations? Feel free to raise your hand or use a Zoom reaction. Awesome. Okay. Looks like it's a relatively new topic for most of us. I'm glad to be introducing it to you all. At Stanford's Deliberative Democracy Lab, our primary focus is on conducting deliberative polls, a method of polling developed by our director, James Fishkin, and continued to be developed by our associate director, Alice Su. Deliberative polling is unique in that we simply don't send out surveys, but we also want to see what the public is thinking about issues when they're well informed. This method involves using pre and post deliberation surveys, panels to hear expert opinions, and guided small group discussions or deliberations about the topics at hand. It's been used in over 50 countries and jurisdictions in more than 150 projects. The reason our polling method is so unique is that we're not only aiming to gauge public opinion, but we also encourage changes within the participant pools as well. So one of the reasons that we do this is that we want to see how participants are undergoing significant opinion changes, often because when they hear from individuals with differing viewpoints in this small group setting, participants become more empathetic and willing to listen. As a result, we've seen drastic decreases in political and affective polarization, as well as increases in trust within participants, as well as towards the policies at hand. We have also witnessed a growing desire for more engagement and sustained participation, with many individuals exchanging contact info during the last few small group discussions, and we have received emails after deliberations signaling their willingness to participate in future polls. In the context of AI governance, deliberative polls are a way for tech companies and governments alike to come up with regulations that consider a diverse range of citizen voices. This also offers a way for checks and balances between users and businesses. Although many deliberative polls have been held in person, our AI-assisted platform has expanded access to these discussions to thousands of people worldwide simultaneously, allowing us to more deeply understand public opinion and combat polarization. The platform has garnered 40,000 plus hours of deliberation, has been used in 30 plus countries in over 25 languages. While you might be wondering if the online platform has truly been effective, since we have no human moderators, we are glad to say that the online and in-person results have been comparable. Now, let's pivot towards how deliberative polling plugs into the matter of AI governance. I'd like to ask you all, one, do you trust AI platform creators to pass responsible AI regulations? Just as before, feel free to raise your hand, Zoom reaction on camera. Got it. There's a lot of distrust in this room. Do you trust government bodies to pass responsible AI regulations? Looks like it's quite similar. So this is exactly what deliberative polling is aiming to combat. I'll talk about that in a little bit. As we all know, AI is quite literally everywhere, in the form of chatbots on every website we use, to the algorithm we depend on to give us our daily social media feed. And it's not new technology, but rather has become particularly disruptive in recent years, with the growth of generative AI. We all know now it's here to stay. AI brings numerous promises, like allowing individuals to be more productive because they can spend time doing the things that they enjoy rather than tedious tasks, to assisting researchers to finding a cure for incurable diseases. This is a positive disruption, and regulation must not stop such innovation. However, it isn't without its risks. Responsible AI is now more imperative than ever. Some examples of past risks include the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica scandal in the 2010s that led to 87 million people's data being leaked. In 2021, Google fired renowned Timnit Gebru after she criticized how new AI systems had built-in biases that were not being addressed. And overall, a massive issue that we have faced with social media algorithms has been pushing misinformation and emotionally provoking content. Now this issue expands to pushing AI-generated misinformation, because now AI-generated images, telling them apart from real ones has become increasingly difficult. On one hand, tech companies are trying their best to keep these technologies safe, while also prioritizing their reputations and business models. And on the other hand, government bodies are unable to pass action-oriented legislation in time before AI tools drastically evolve. These two stakeholders in AI governance are facing similar barriers in implementing safeguards, but a potential solution is a democratic approach that relies upon public decision-making. The more the public understands how vital this is, the quicker the policies can be implemented. Now, I can't discount the fact that there hasn't been anything done to address AI. Global guidance on safe frameworks for AI development that have been passed include the EU AI Act and President Biden's executive order. But we are still waiting for tangible safeguards on these technologies. Between constantly evolving tech and slow-moving public policymaking, there is a need for action that bridges public and private sectors. This is where deliberative polling comes in. Over the past year, we have led 2 deliberative polls on the topic of AI and education, one with 115 high school students and the other with 80 high school teachers. The reason we launched this series was because I was in high school at the time, and a few of my friends and I had become increasingly aware of how schools and districts around the US were banning AI, and instead implementing rushed, ineffective measures without consulting key stakeholders, such as students and teachers. My peers and I were often victims of different AI policies throughout the school day, with teachers just across the hall having vastly different views on AI. Frustration continued to set in as some of my peers were falsely accused of using AI and then subject to grade deductions and suspensions with no way to prove their innocence. After meeting with my friends in other school districts, I realized that this was a shared problem, and none of the policies being implemented had included any consideration of the student voice. We sought a way to gather a scaled sample of students that would not only aim to gather their opinions about AI policies, but also result in students learning more about this emerging technology. Deliberative polling offered the best of both worlds, allowing participants to provide their insights while learning from each other through discussion. In both deliberative polls, 13 proposals were discussed on AI use in schools, covering topics from curriculum creation, assignments, penalties, and grading. Our first deliberative poll last fall aimed to bring the student perspective to the forefront of this discussion, but after gathering the results and speaking to several school boards and organizations about these findings, we hit several hurdles in translating this data into action. For one, most school districts were limited in resources to devote to figuring out something that really seemed like a future problem. Others felt that teachers were also key stakeholder, missing from this conversation. This is when we realized a deliberative poll with high school teachers would not only prove from the frontline perspective that addressing AI early on is an urgent matter, but also display how educators are thinking about potential regulations. Before I move on to the specific case studies, I'm curious to see what you all think about AI in the classroom. Does anyone agree with the statement that AI should be a resource for teachers to freely use? Again, Zoom reactions on camera would be great. Okay. Got it. And then what about students? Should students use AI? Awesome. Okay, that's great. Okay, so here's some of the key things that we found. For one, teachers differed in their views on teacher use of AI. Only 16% of teachers believe that they should not use AI tools to create teaching materials, and 24% believed that they should not use AI to assist in grading student work. Interestingly enough, though, more students were in favor of regulating teacher use of AI, with 40.8% agreeing with these two proposals. When asked about student use of AI, teachers and students were mostly on the same page. Students should be allowed to use AI tools as a resource for schoolwork, and most did not support banning AI tools on school devices and the internet. The most supported policy proposal, with 88% support from teachers and 83.1% from students, was that schools should provide guidelines and resources to teach students how to use AI responsibly. And finally, teachers and students were both in favor of using corrective policies, like warnings and grade deductions, over punitive penalties like suspension and expulsion. Here's what some of our participants had to say about the various topics at hand. One student mentioned, teaching subjects is not a school's only job. They're supposed to teach you how to be a good person and how to have good integrity. Providing guidelines and resources on AI would be a good idea. And a teacher pointed out, we are not going to be able to avoid this. The sooner we provide training and educate teachers and heads of schools, the better. We need to make it clear how ethics and credibility are involved. With these results, we have published fact sheets in collaboration with the California School Board Association to assist school boards in California and beyond to understand where students and teachers both stand on this pressing issue. We also have an upcoming Hill briefing on AI in education, which aims to engage policy makers of all levels of government. We also have a deliberative poll on the same topic for school administrators coming up this fall as well. This is also a replicable model that can be scaled to an international audience and on different topics. For example, in 2022 and 2023, we collaborated with Meta to host deliberative polls on the metaverse and AI. The 2022 deliberative poll covered the topic of harassment and bullying in the metaverse, with an audience of 6,500 participants who discussed 56 proposals throughout 4 sessions. This was, in fact, our largest deliberative poll to date. And in 2023, 1,545 participants discussed the rules for AI chatbots through 36 proposals and 4 sessions. Here are some of our key findings from the Metaverse poll. First, support for the proposal that platform owners should have access to video capture in member-only spaces rose 12 percentage points from before to after deliberations, which can be seen on this graph to the right. Support for requiring creators to take a course on how to moderate the spaces they create jumped by 11 percentage points, and support for user notifications when entering a space where there is repeated bullying and/or harassment increased 9 percentage points. All of these, again, attest to how these small group discussions can drastically change opinion. And the overall impact of this poll was that a majority believed that they had come to an informed judgment that Meta can consider in making decisions, showing that deliberations made their voices feel heard and helped them stay informed about the tools that they're using. This poll also depolarized participants on these very issues. In the second community forum, more participants in all countries started seeing AI more positively, which can be seen on these graphs to the right. The most significant change was seen in Spain. Some other interesting points to note include that 60% of participants reported having used ChatGPT prior to the event, further emphasizing how prominent such AI tools are. And any gaps between ChatGPT users and non-users generally narrowed after discussing. Once again, pointing towards the aspect of depolarization. The last key takeaway is that the highest priorities addressed by participants in the topic of AI governance was that policies must address AI bias, misinformation, human rights violations, and data privacy. Looking forward, we hope that more and more public policy makers will use deliberative polling to consult in making policy decisions, not only for more representative and inclusive regulations, but also to depolarize our increasingly polarized communities. It is also important to note that deliberative polling is just one of the many methods to include citizen voices. One prominent example is a call to have a global citizen assembly on AI introduced at the UN Summit of the Future. Forging international consensus on ensuring responsible AI use cannot be achieved amongst a select few regulators, but must be done with a spirit of collaboration amongst those who will be impacted by such technologies. Thank you all for your participation. If you'd like to hear more about these polls or our work overall, please feel free to contact me at this email address or scan this link. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sia. This is a wonderful project and a wonderful presentation, and extremely important. I mean, to think about asking students what they think and how would they do it better, as opposed to just imposing some rules or sanctions on them that can harm their school and career and emotional, mental health and so on. This is wonderful, and I believe that the young generation is now supposed to drive all the transformations and find all these creative ways to integrate AI and govern and also create the governance tools and methods that can be included and implemented in this new technology, because you are a lot more exposed to you've been exposed to technology a lot earlier than everybody else, and in your life, and it's really important that younger people educate older people. This is where we are now. So thank you so much for all your work.